Marcus Williams pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of TechFlow Industries at 5:30 a.m., just like he had done every morning for the past 8 years. The building was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the gentle squeak of his cart's wheels against the polished marble floor. At 42 years old, Marcus had perfected his routine. He knew exactly which offices needed extra attention, which executives preferred their trash bins emptied before 7 a.m., and which floors required the most careful cleaning. The father of 3 had taken this job when his youngest daughter Emma was just 2 years old. His wife Sarah worked as a nurse at the local hospital, pulling night shifts to help make ends meet. Between them, they managed to keep their small family afloat, though money was always tight. Marcus never complained about his work. He took pride in keeping the gleaming corporate headquarters spotless, even if most employees barely noticed him as they rushed past in their expensive suits. This particular Tuesday morning felt different somehow. As Marcus cleaned the executive floor on the 20th level, he noticed more activity than usual. Important-looking people in dark suits were walking around with serious expressions, carrying thick folders and speaking in hushed tones. He had learned over the years to stay invisible during these corporate moments, focusing on his work while the business world buzzed around him. The CEO's office was always his last stop on this floor. Richard Patterson had been running TechFlow for 15 years, building it from a small startup into a Fortune 500 company. Marcus had seen him countless times but had never spoken directly to him. Mr. Patterson was known for arriving early and staying late, often working through lunch meetings and weekend conferences. The man seemed to live and breathe business. Marcus approached the massive corner office. He was surprised to find the door slightly open. Usually it remained locked until Mr. Patterson arrived around 7 a.m. Soft light spilled out into the hallway, and Marcus could hear the quiet tapping of fingers on a keyboard. Someone was already inside, working in the early morning silence. Marcus hesitated for a moment, unsure whether he should return later. His schedule was tight, and he had 12 more floors to complete before the building filled with employees. He decided to knock gently on the door frame and peek inside. Mr. Patterson looked up from his computer, his reading glasses perched on his nose, and several coffee cups scattered across his massive desk. "Oh, Marcus, right?" the CEO said, surprising the janitor by knowing his name. "Come on in, don't let me interrupt your work." Marcus entered quietly, pulling his cart behind him. He had never been acknowledged by name before, and certainly not by the CEO himself. He began emptying the trash bins and wiping down surfaces with his usual efficiency, trying not to disturb the executive who had returned to typing intensely on his laptop. The office was impressive, with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a stunning view of the city skyline. Awards and certificates lined the walls, along with photos of Mr. Patterson meeting with famous business leaders and politicians. A family photo sat prominently on his desk, showing him with his wife and 2 teenage sons at what looked like a ski resort. As Marcus worked, he couldn't help but notice the scattered papers on Mr. Patterson's desk. Financial reports, employee files, and legal documents were spread everywhere. The CEO looked stressed, running his hands through his graying hair and occasionally sighing deeply as he read through various documents. "Long night?" Marcus asked quietly, immediately regretting speaking out of turn. Mr. Patterson looked up, seeming almost relieved to have someone to talk to. "Very long night. We're going through some major changes here at TechFlow. Nothing for you to worry about, but it's keeping me up." Marcus nodded and continued cleaning, but he sensed the CEO wanted to talk. After 8 years of working in this building, he had developed a good read on people. Mr. Patterson seemed lonely despite being surrounded by power and success. "Your family doing well?" the CEO asked unexpectedly. Marcus was surprised by the personal question. "Yes, sir, thank you for asking. My youngest just started 3rd grade and my older kids are doing good in school. My wife works at General Hospital." "That must be tough, both of you working such demanding schedules." "We make it work," Marcus replied simply, not wanting to burden this successful man with his family's financial struggles. Mr. Patterson nodded thoughtfully and returned to his computer. Marcus finished cleaning the office in comfortable silence, the only sounds being the gentle whoosh of his cleaning cloth and the continued typing from behind the massive desk. As Marcus prepared to leave, pushing his cart toward the door, Mr. Patterson called out to him. "Marcus, I want you to know that your work here doesn't go unnoticed. This building looks incredible every single day, and that's because of people like you." Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest. After years of being nearly invisible, hearing those words from the CEO himself meant more than Mr. Patterson could possibly know. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Have a good rest of your day," Mr. Patterson said with a genuine smile. Marcus left the office feeling lighter somehow, as if that brief conversation had changed something fundamental about his work. He had no idea that this simple morning interaction would set in motion a series of events that would completely transform his life and the lives of his family. Sometimes the most important moments come disguised as ordinary conversations between two people who, despite their different worlds, share the common bond of working hard to take care of the people they love. The rest of his shift passed quickly, and Marcus found himself humming softly as he cleaned. For the first time in years, he felt truly seen and valued at his workplace. 3 weeks passed since that early morning conversation with Mr. Patterson. Marcus had returned to his regular routine, though he noticed the CEO seemed to be working even longer hours than usual. The executive floor buzzed with constant activity, and Marcus often saw groups of serious-looking people in expensive suits coming and going throughout the day. On this particular Friday afternoon, Marcus was finishing up his shift when he noticed an envelope taped to his cleaning cart. His name was written on the front in neat handwriting. This was unusual. Any official communication from the company typically came through his supervisor, Mr. Rodriguez, who managed all the maintenance staff. Marcus looked around the empty hallway, wondering who could have left this note. He carefully opened the envelope and found a single piece of company letterhead with a handwritten message. "Marcus, could you please stop by my office after your shift ends today? I have something I'd like to discuss with you. R. Patterson." His heart started beating faster. In 8 years of working here, he had never been called to anyone's office, let alone the CEO's. His mind raced with possibilities. Had he done something wrong? Was the company cutting costs and eliminating janitorial positions? He thought about his family, his mortgage payments, and Emma's upcoming school expenses. Marcus finished his cleaning duties with shaking hands, checking and double-checking every detail. He wanted everything to be perfect in case this was some kind of evaluation. At 2:30 p.m., he made his way to the 20th floor, his work uniform freshly cleaned and his hair neatly combed. The executive assistant, Mrs. Chen, smiled warmly when she saw him approach. "Mr. Patterson is expecting you, Marcus. Go right in." Marcus knocked softly on the office door and heard the familiar voice call out, "Come in." Mr. Patterson stood up from behind his desk as Marcus entered, which surprised the janitor. Important people didn't usually stand up for him. The CEO gestured to one of the leather chairs in front of his desk. "Please have a seat." Marcus perched on the edge of the chair, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. The office looked even more impressive in the afternoon light, with the city sprawling out below them through the massive windows. "Marcus, I want to start by saying that you're not in any trouble," Mr. Patterson began, immediately reading the worry on his face. "Actually, quite the opposite. I asked you here because I've been paying attention to your work for some time now." Relief washed over Marcus, though he remained confused about why he was sitting in the CEO's office. "Over the past few weeks, I've been working very early mornings and very late nights. During that time, I've had the opportunity to observe the incredible job you do. This building is massive, over 1 million square feet, and you manage to keep every corner spotless. But more than that, I've noticed how you treat this place." Mr. Patterson walked over to his window and looked out at the city below. "Yesterday morning, I watched you spend 15 minutes carefully cleaning coffee stains from the elevator buttons. Most people would have just wiped them down quickly and moved on, but you treated it like it mattered." Marcus wasn't sure what to say. He had always taken pride in his work, but he never expected anyone to notice these small details. 2 weeks ago, I saw you stay late to make sure the conference room was perfect for an important client meeting the next morning, even though that wasn't technically your responsibility. You arranged the chairs, cleaned the windows twice, and even straightened all the papers and pens. The CEO turned back to face Marcus. I've been running this company for 15 years, and I've learned that character shows up in how people handle the small things when they think no one is watching. Marcus felt his cheeks getting warm. He still wasn't sure where this conversation was heading. I'll be direct with you, Marcus. TechFlow is going through a major expansion. We're opening 3 new locations over the next year, and we need people we can trust in leadership positions. People who understand what it means to take ownership and show real pride in their work. The janitor's eyes widened. Leadership positions? I know this might sound crazy, but I'd like to offer you a position as Regional Facilities Manager. You would oversee maintenance operations for all our locations, manage teams of staff, and work directly with me on facility planning and budgets. Marcus felt like the room was spinning. This had to be some kind of mistake. Mr. Patterson, sir, I don't have any management experience. I never even finished college. Some of the best leaders I know never finished college. And you've been managing this entire building for 8 years. You know every system, every corner, every detail. You understand what it takes to maintain excellence every single day. Mr. Patterson sat back down and leaned forward in his chair. The position would come with a significant salary increase. We're talking about moving from $32,000 a year to $78,000, plus benefits and potential bonuses. Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. That was more money than he and Sarah made combined. That was enough to fix their old car, catch up on bills, and maybe even think about Emma's college fund. I know this is a lot to take in, the CEO continued. I don't need an answer today, but I want you to think about it over the weekend and talk it over with your family. The company would provide all the training you need, and you'd have my full support. Marcus sat in stunned silence, trying to process what he had just heard. The most powerful person in the company was offering him a chance to completely change his family's life. Why me? He finally managed to ask. Mr. Patterson smiled. Because in 15 years of running this company, I've learned that skills can be taught, but integrity and work ethic cannot. You already have what matters most. As Marcus walked home that evening, the job offer letter folded carefully in his pocket. He couldn't wait to see the look on Sarah's face when he told her the news. For the first time in years, their future looked brighter than he had ever dared to imagine. Sarah Williams was folding laundry in their small living room when Marcus walked through the front door that Friday evening. She could tell immediately that something was different about her husband. His usual tired expression had been replaced by something she hadn't seen in years, excitement mixed with disbelief. How was work? She asked, setting down one of Emma's school shirts. Marcus sat down heavily on their worn couch, pulling the job offer letter from his pocket. Sarah, you need to sit down. Their 3 children were scattered throughout the house. 12-year-old David was in his room doing homework. 10-year-old Lisa was watching television, and 8-year-old Emma was coloring at the kitchen table. Sarah sensed this was a conversation that needed privacy. Kids, go play in your rooms for a few minutes. Daddy and I need to talk. Once they were alone, Marcus handed her the letter with shaking hands. The CEO called me into his office today. Sarah's face immediately showed concern. Are they laying people off? We'll figure something out, Marcus. Maybe I can pick up more shifts at the hospital. No, honey, read the letter. Sarah unfolded the official TechFlow Industries letterhead and began reading. Marcus watched her face change as she took in the words. Her eyes widened, then she looked up at him, then back at the paper, then up at him again. Marcus, this says they want to make you Regional Facilities Manager. And this salary... She pointed to the number with a trembling finger. This can't be right. I know it sounds crazy. I've read it 20 times myself. Sarah stood up and paced across their small living room, the letter still in her hands. $78,000 a year? That's more than double what we make together. Marcus nodded, still processing it himself. Mr. Patterson said he's been watching my work. He noticed things I didn't even know anyone was paying attention. 2. Their conversation was interrupted by Emma, who poked her head around the corner. Daddy, are you famous now? Marcus laughed and scooped up his youngest daughter. No, sweetheart, but Daddy might get a new job. Will you still come to my school plays? Emma asked, her 8-year-old mind focusing on what mattered most to her. Of course I will. I'll always come to your school plays. Sarah called David and Lisa into the living room. At 12 and 10, they were old enough to understand what this opportunity could mean for their family. Kids, your father has been offered an amazing job, Sarah began carefully. It would mean some big changes for our family, but good changes. David, who had been asking for a new bike for months, perked up immediately. Does this mean we might not have to buy everything from the thrift store anymore? Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. Their children had never complained about their tight finances, but they were old enough to notice when their friends had things they couldn't afford. It means we'll have more options, Marcus said diplomatically. But more importantly, it means Daddy's hard work has been recognized. That weekend, the Williams family found themselves dreaming about possibilities they had never dared consider before. Sarah talked about maybe taking fewer night shifts so she could see the kids more. David mentioned joining the school's baseball team, which required equipment they had never been able to afford. Lisa shyly admitted she had always wanted to take piano lessons. Emma, being 8, had the biggest dreams of all. Can we get a dog and maybe a bigger house with a backyard? But along with the excitement came fear. On Sunday morning, as they sat in their usual pew at St. Matthew's Methodist Church, Sarah whispered her concerns to Marcus during the quiet moments of the service. What if you fail? What if you're not ready for this kind of responsibility? Marcus had been wrestling with the same doubts. I keep thinking about all the things I don't know. Business meetings, managing people, working with budgets. What if Mr. Patterson made a mistake? Pastor Williams, no relation despite the shared last name, seemed to sense their inner turmoil during his sermon. He spoke about Moses, who felt unqualified to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Sometimes, Pastor Williams said, looking directly at Marcus as if he knew what was happening in their lives, God places opportunities in our path, not because we feel ready, but because He knows. We have what it takes even when we don't see it ourselves. After church, the Williams family went to their usual Sunday lunch spot, the local diner where kids ate free and the portions were generous enough for leftovers. As they sat in their familiar booth, Marcus made his decision. I'm going to take the job, he announced quietly. Sarah reached across the table and took his hand. Are you sure? I'm terrified, Marcus admitted. But I'm more terrified of wondering for the rest of my life what might have happened if I had been brave enough to try. The children cheered and Emma climbed into her father's lap. I'm proud of you, Daddy. That night, after the kids were asleep, Marcus sat at their small kitchen table writing his acceptance letter. Sarah sat beside him, helping him find the right words to express his gratitude and commitment. Mr. Patterson, he wrote, I accept your generous offer with excitement and determination. While I know I have much to learn, I promise to bring the same dedication to this new role that I have brought to maintaining your building for the past 8 years. Thank you for seeing potential in me that I'm just beginning to see in myself. As he sealed the envelope, Marcus felt like he was sealing his family's new future inside. Monday morning couldn't come soon enough. For the first time in his adult life, Marcus Williams was about to step into a world where his hard work and character had opened doors he never knew existed. The janitor was about to become a manager, and everything was about to change. Monday morning arrived with Marcus Williams wearing his best outfit, a navy blue suit he had worn to his wedding 12 years earlier. Sarah had spent Sunday evening making sure it was perfectly pressed, and though it was slightly outdated, he looked professional and confident. His first day as regional facilities manager began at 8 a.m. sharp in the executive conference room on the 20th floor. Marcus had walked past this room thousands of times while cleaning, but had never imagined he would be sitting at the polished mahogany table as an employee. Mr. Patterson introduced him to the management team with genuine enthusiasm. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Marcus Williams, our new regional facilities manager. Marcus has an intimate knowledge of our operations that you simply can't get from a textbook or MBA program. The responses from his new colleagues were mixed. Some executives welcomed him warmly, genuinely excited to work with someone who understood the building from the ground up. Others were more reserved, clearly skeptical about promoting a janitor to a management position. Jennifer Hayes, the vice president of operations, was particularly cool during the introductions. After the meeting, she cornered Marcus in the hallway. "I hope you understand that this position requires more than just knowing how to clean floors," she said curtly. "You'll be managing budgets in the millions, overseeing union negotiations and dealing with complex facility regulations." Marcus felt his confidence waver but managed to respond professionally. "I understand there's a lot to learn, Ms. Hayes. I'm ready to work hard and prove myself." "We'll see," she replied before walking away. The next few weeks were overwhelming. Marcus found himself drowning in spreadsheets, legal documents, and technical manuals. He attended meetings where people threw around terms he didn't understand: HVAC optimization, capital expenditure forecasts, and regulatory compliance matrices. His office was a far cry from his old supply closet. Located on the 15th floor with a window overlooking the city, it came with a secretary, a company phone, and a computer loaded with software he was still learning to use. The hardest part was earning respect from the facility's staff he now supervised. Many of them had worked alongside him for years as equals. Now, suddenly, he was their boss. Tony Martinez, who had worked in building maintenance for 15 years, was particularly resentful. "So now you're too good to push a mop with the rest of us?" he said during Marcus's first staff meeting. "That's not what this is about, Tony," Marcus replied calmly. "I still remember what it's like to do your job because I did it yesterday. That's going to make me a better manager." But Tony wasn't the only challenge. During his second week, Marcus discovered that the previous facilities manager had been approving questionable expense reports and allowing certain contractors to overcharge the company significantly. One invoice caught his attention immediately: $15,000 for window cleaning services that Marcus knew should cost no more than $3,000. He had cleaned these same windows himself for years. When he brought this discrepancy to Ms. Hayes, she seemed annoyed rather than grateful. "Are you sure you're reading these invoices correctly? Johnson managed facilities for 10 years without any problems." "I'm sure," Marcus replied confidently. "I know exactly what this work should cost." His investigation revealed that Johnson had been receiving kickbacks from several contractors in exchange for approving inflated bills. The scandal had been costing TechFlow hundreds of thousands of dollars annually. Mr. Patterson was furious when Marcus presented his findings. "This is exactly why I needed someone with integrity in this position," he said. "Johnson's corruption could have cost us millions if it had continued." The discovery of the fraud scheme vindicated Mr. Patterson's decision to promote Marcus, but it also created enemies. Ms. Hayes, who had been Johnson's supervisor, was embarrassed that the corruption had happened under her watch. Meanwhile, at home, the Williams family was adjusting to their new reality. Sarah had reduced her hours at the hospital and was enjoying being home when the children returned from school. David had joined the baseball team and was thriving. Lisa had started piano lessons and practiced every day after homework. Emma was taking dance classes and talked constantly about their upcoming recital. But success came with unexpected challenges. When Marcus arrived at Emma's dance recital, he overheard two other parents talking. "See that man over there? He used to be the janitor at TechFlow. Now he's some big-shot manager," one woman whispered to another. "Really? I wonder what he did to get promoted so fast." "These days you never know," the second woman replied with a meaningful look. Marcus felt his face burn with embarrassment and anger. He had earned his promotion through 8 years of dedicated work, but some people would always assume the worst. Emma's performance was beautiful, and she beamed when she spotted her father in the audience. After the recital, she ran to him with her arms outstretched. "Daddy, did you see me? Was I good?" Marcus scooped her up, forgetting all about the whispered comments. "You were perfect, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." That night, as Sarah tucked Emma into bed, their daughter asked a question that broke both parents' hearts. "Mommy, why were those ladies at my recital saying mean things about Daddy?" Sarah sat on the edge of Emma's bed, choosing her words carefully. Sometimes, honey, when good things happen to people, other people get jealous. Your daddy worked very hard for many years, and his boss noticed how special he is. Not everyone understands that. But Daddy is the best daddy in the world, Emma said with 8-year-old certainty. Yes, he is, Sarah agreed, kissing her daughter's forehead. Later that evening, Marcus and Sarah sat on their front porch, talking about the challenges of their new life. I know this promotion was a blessing, Marcus said, but sometimes I wonder if we were happier when life was simpler. Sarah took his hand. Marcus Williams, you listen to me. You earned every bit of this success. Don't let anyone make you feel like you don't deserve it. But what if I fail? What if Ms. Hayes is right and I'm in over my head? Then we'll figure it out together just like we always have, Sarah replied firmly. But I don't think you're going to fail. I think you're going to surprise everyone, including yourself. As they sat in comfortable silence, watching their neighborhood settle in for the night, Marcus realized that his journey was far from over. The real test of his character wasn't getting the promotion. It was proving that Mr. Patterson's faith in him had been justified. 6 months into his new position, Marcus Williams faced his biggest challenge yet. TechFlow's newest facility in downtown Chicago was experiencing serious problems, and the grand opening was just 3 weeks away. The previous contractor had installed faulty electrical systems, the flooring was buckling in several areas, and the climate control system wasn't working properly. Ms. Hayes called an emergency meeting with the senior management team. As they sat around the conference table, she painted a grim picture. We're looking at potential delays of 6 to 8 weeks, which means we'll miss our deadline with the Morrison Industries contract. That's a $12 million deal that could walk away if we don't open on time. Mr. Patterson looked stressed as he reviewed the contractor reports. What are our options? The head of construction, Bill Morrison, shook his head. We need to bring in new contractors, redo the electrical work, replace the damaged flooring, and install a completely new HVAC system. Even working around the clock, I don't see how we can make the deadline. Marcus had been quiet during most of the meeting, but he had been taking detailed notes and thinking about the problems from a different angle. Finally, he spoke up. What if we approach this differently? He said, all eyes turning to him. Instead of trying to fix everything with outside contractors who don't know our standards, what if we use our existing maintenance teams from all 3 locations? Ms. Hayes looked skeptical. Marcus, this isn't about changing light bulbs. We're talking about major construction issues. I know, Marcus replied calmly. But I've worked with these systems for 8 years. Tony Martinez is an excellent electrician. He's been fixing electrical problems in our buildings for 15 years. Dave Chen from the West facility used to install HVAC systems before he joined our company. Rosa Gutierrez worked in flooring, installation for 10 years before she became part of our cleaning crew. He stood up and walked to the whiteboard, beginning to sketch out a plan. We have skilled people spread across our facilities who could handle this work. They know our quality standards better than any outside contractor because they've been maintaining our buildings for years. Mr. Patterson leaned forward with interest. Keep talking. If we reassign teams from all our locations and coordinate the work properly, we could have people working on electrical, flooring, and climate control simultaneously. No waiting for contractors to become available, no learning curve about our expectations, and no inflated overtime charges. Bill Morrison looked doubtful. That's a lot of coordination, Marcus. Are you sure you can manage a project this complex? Marcus felt a familiar flutter of self-doubt, but then he thought about Emma's dance recital, about the whispered comments, about all the times people had underestimated him. I can do it. I know these people. I know these systems. And I know what needs to be done. Ms. Hayes crossed her arms. And if you're wrong? If you can't pull this off in 3 weeks? Then I'll take full responsibility, Marcus replied without hesitation. Mr. Patterson stood up. Marcus, I'm going to give you complete authority over this project. Whatever resources you need, whatever people you need, you've got them. The next morning, Marcus arrived in Chicago to assess the damaged facility personally. What he found was worse than the reports had indicated, but he also saw opportunities that others had missed. He called Tony Martinez first. "Tony, I need you in Chicago. Can you be here by tomorrow morning?" "Marcus, I've got 3 buildings to maintain here. I can't just drop everything." "Tony, I'm not asking you to abandon your responsibilities. I'm asking you to help me save this company a $12 million contract. I need your electrical expertise, and I need someone I can trust." There was a pause on the line. "You really think we can pull this off?" "I know we can, but I need my best people with me." By the end of the week, Marcus had assembled a team of 25 facility workers from across all TechFlow locations. He created detailed schedules, coordinated supply deliveries, and worked 16-hour days alongside his crew. The transformation was remarkable. Tony Martinez rewired the entire electrical system working with 2 assistants, finishing the job in 4 days instead of the projected 2 weeks. Dave Chen's HVAC installation was not only completed ahead of schedule, but came in under budget. Rosa Gutierrez supervised a flooring team that worked with precision and speed that impressed even the original architects. Marcus slept on a cot in the facility's temporary office, available 24 hours a day to solve problems and coordinate. Between teams, he reviewed every detail personally, applying the same standards he had used when cleaning offices to this massive renovation project. Sarah drove to Chicago during the 2nd week to check on her husband. She found him exhausted but energized, covered in dust and wearing work clothes instead of his usual suit. "You look like the old Marcus," she said, smiling as she handed him a thermos of coffee. "This is the most challenging thing I've ever done," he admitted, "but it's also the most rewarding. These people are working miracles because they believe in what we're doing." "They're working miracles because they believe in you," Sarah corrected. On the final day before the deadline, Ms. Hayes arrived to inspect the facility. Marcus met her at the front entrance, nervous but confident about what she would find. As they walked through the building, her expression changed from skepticism to surprise to genuine amazement. The facility was not just completed, it was perfect. Every system worked flawlessly, the finishes were impeccable, and the attention to detail was obvious in every corner. "Marcus," she said finally, "I owe you an apology. I didn't think you could pull this off." "Ms. Hayes, I didn't do this alone. I had an incredible team of people who know what it means to take pride in their work." The Morrison Industries representatives toured the facility the next day and were so impressed that they signed an additional $8 million expansion contract on the spot. At the celebration dinner that evening, Mr. Patterson stood up to address the entire team. "6 months ago, I promoted Marcus Williams because I saw potential. Today, he didn't just meet that potential, he exceeded every expectation I had." The room erupted in applause, but Marcus was focused on his team of maintenance workers who were beaming with pride. For the first time in their careers, their skills and dedication had been recognized at the highest level of the company. Tony Martinez, who had been Marcus's biggest skeptic, stood up and raised his glass. "To Marcus Williams, the best boss I've ever worked for and still one of us." As the applause continued, Marcus realized that he had found something more valuable than a promotion or a salary increase. He had discovered that leadership wasn't about having the fanciest education or the most impressive resume. It was about recognizing the potential in others and creating opportunities for them to succeed. The janitor, who had always taken pride in his work, had learned to help others take pride in theirs. 2 years had passed since Marcus Williams received that life-changing note from CEO Richard Patterson. The former janitor now oversaw facilities operations for 6 TechFlow locations across 3 states, managing a team of over 200 employees and a multi-million-dollar budget. The Williams family had moved to a larger home in a better neighborhood, complete with the backyard and dog that Emma had dreamed about. David was now the star player on his high school baseball team. Lisa had won several piano competitions, and Emma was still dancing, though she now talked about becoming a teacher like her father had become, someone who helped people discover what they were capable of. On this particular Monday morning, Marcus was reviewing applications for a new maintenance supervisor position at their Atlanta facility. One application caught his attention immediately. The candidate, Maria Santos, was currently working as a night custodian at a law firm. Her application was brief. She had only completed 8th grade and had been cleaning offices for 12 years to support her 3 children as a single mother. But something in her cover letter resonated with Marcus. She wrote, "I may not have fancy education, but I take pride in my work. I know every corner of the building I clean, and I always try to make it better than I found it. I work hard because I want my children to know that honest work has dignity." Marcus smiled as he read those words. They reminded him of his own thoughts from years ago when he pushed his cleaning cart through the tech flow hallways before dawn. He decided to interview Maria personally. When she arrived at the Atlanta facility, she was nervous and wearing her best outfit, a simple dress that had clearly been carefully maintained despite its age. "Ms. Santos," Marcus began, "tell me about your work at the law firm." Maria straightened in her chair, though her hands were still clasped tightly in her lap. "I clean 3 floors every night, sir. I start at 10 p.m. and finish by 6 a.m. I know it's not much, but I've never missed a day in 12 years, not even when my youngest had pneumonia." Marcus nodded, seeing himself in her dedication. "What would you say is the most important part of your job?" "Respect," Maria answered without hesitation. "I respect the spaces I clean because other people have to work there. I respect the people who will use those offices the next day, even though most of them don't know my name. And I respect myself enough to do the best job I can, no matter what." After the interview, Marcus called Mr. Patterson. "Richard, I found someone for the Atlanta supervisor position, but I want to do something different. What do you have in mind?" "I want to create a pathway program. Instead of just hiring Maria as a supervisor, I want to bring her in as an assistant supervisor and provide her with training, education support, and mentorship. If it works, we can expand it to help other custodial workers advance their careers." Mr. Patterson was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, when I promoted you 2 years ago, people thought I was taking a big risk. Now you're one of our most valuable executives. If you think Maria has potential, I trust your judgment." 3 months later, the Marcus Williams Leadership Development Program was officially launched. Maria Santos became its first participant, working during the day as an assistant supervisor while attending business classes in the evenings that TechFlow sponsored. The program attracted attention from across the company and eventually from business media. A reporter from Business Weekly came to interview Marcus about his innovative approach to employee development. "Mr. Williams," the reporter asked, "what made you think to look for leadership potential in custodial workers?" Marcus smiled, thinking about that early morning conversation with Mr. Patterson that had changed everything. "Because I learned that character and work ethic are the most important qualifications for leadership. You can teach someone to read financial reports or manage budgets, but you can't teach them to care about their work or take pride in excellence." The article that resulted from that interview was titled, "From Janitor to Executive: How One CEO's Vision Changed a Company's Culture." It featured photos of Marcus with his team, including Maria, who had just been promoted to full supervisor status. But the real recognition came from an unexpected source. Tony Martinez, who had become one of Marcus's most trusted team leaders, approached him after a staff meeting. "Marcus, I owe you something," Tony said. "What's that?" "An apology. When you first got promoted, I thought you were going to forget where you came from. I was wrong. You didn't just remember, you came back to help the rest of us climb up too." That evening, Marcus arrived home to find his family gathered around the kitchen table with a surprise cake. "Congratulations, Dad," Emma shouted. "We saw your picture in the magazine at the grocery store." Sarah hugged him tightly. "I'm so proud of you, not just for the success, but for who you've remained through all of this." As they celebrated together, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 2 years ago, he had been invisible, pushing a cleaning cart through empty hallways. Now he was featured in national business publications and speaking at leadership conferences. But the real transformation hadn't been in his job title or salary. It had been in understanding that everyone deserves the chance to be seen for their potential, not just their current circumstances. The next morning, Marcus received an email that made him laugh out loud. It was from a janitor at a company in Seattle who had read the Business Weekly article. "Mr. Williams," the email read, "my name is James Rodriguez, and I've been cleaning offices for 6 years. Your story gives me hope that hard work really does matter. I don't know if I'll ever get an opportunity like yours, but reading about your journey reminds me to take pride in what I do every day. Thank you for showing people like me that we matter." Marcus immediately picked up the phone and called James. After a long conversation about James's work ethic and dreams for his family, Marcus offered him a position in the TechFlow mentorship program. 6 months later, James Rodriguez moved to Atlanta to begin his training as an assistant facilities coordinator. Maria Santos, now a full supervisor, was assigned as his mentor. During the company's annual meeting, Mr. Patterson announced that the Marcus Williams Leadership Development program had been so successful that it was being expanded company-wide. "This program represents the best of TechFlow's values," he told the assembled employees. "It proves that opportunities should be based on character and potential, not just credentials." As the meeting ended, Marcus was approached by a young woman who introduced herself as Jennifer Patterson, the CEO's daughter. "Mr. Williams, I'm starting business school next fall, and I'm writing my thesis on innovative leadership development. Would you mind if I interviewed you about your program?" "I'd be honored," Marcus replied. "But I should warn you, the most important things I've learned about leadership didn't come from any business school. That's exactly what I'm hoping to write about." She smiled. That night, as Marcus tucked Emma into bed, she asked him the same question she had asked on that life-changing Friday evening 2 years earlier. "Daddy, are you famous now?" Marcus thought about the magazine articles, the speaking engagements, and the recognition from business leaders across the country. Then he looked at his daughter's trusting face and gave her the same answer that mattered most. "No, sweetheart, I'm just a daddy who works hard and tries to help other people work hard too. Will you still come to my school plays?" "Always, Emma. No matter how big my job gets, being your daddy will always be the most important thing I do." As he turned off her bedroom light, Marcus realized that the little girl who had asked if he was famous had accidentally asked the most important question of all. Fame and recognition were temporary, but the relationships he had built with his family, his team, and the people whose lives he had touched, those were permanent. The janitor who had received a note from the CEO had become a CEO himself. In everything that truly mattered, he had learned to see potential in others the way Mr. Patterson had seen potential in him. And in doing so, he had discovered that the most powerful thing any leader can do is help other people believe in themselves. The story that had started with a simple note had become a legacy that would continue long after the headlines faded. Because somewhere in Seattle and Atlanta and cities across the country, people who had been invisible were learning that hard work, integrity, and character could still change everything. Marcus Williams had not just climbed a ladder, he had built one for others to follow.